North Carolina is excited to be hosting our 4th NC Junior Chef Competition. This year's competition will be virtual. You may be thinking, why have a junior chef competition? The intent of the competition is to inspire the next generation of culinary professionals, stimulate interest in locally produced agriculture, create new school meal recipes students will enjoy, increase participation in school nutrition programs, provide nutrition education, and encourage healthy eating habits. The Junior Chef Competition recognizes students for their ability to work as members of a team to demonstrate valuable skills in recipe development, food preparation, marketing, public presentation, organization, and local food systems. The NC Junior Chef Competition consists of 2 parts, a recipe contest and a cook-off. Student teams must develop a recipe for a school lunch entree that meets the guidelines to submit for the recipe contest. During the cook-off, finalist teams must prepare, cook, plate, and present their recipe for judges. Who's eligible? Teams of 2 to 4 high school students, grades 9 through 12, currently enrolled in North Carolina Career and Technical Education, Culinary Arts and Hospitality, Food Nutrition, or Food Science and Technology courses can participate. Students may only be on one team. Only one team is allowed from each high school. Due to insurance coverage requirements, students should also be members of FCCLA. Are there any awards or recognition available? Yes. Student members of the teams will receive NC Junior Chef Competition chef's hats, coats, and aprons, along with certificates and medals based on their team score. The first, second, and third place teams will receive plaques to display in their school. In addition, the first place team will have the honor of hosting the NC Junior Chef Competition trophy until the next year's cook-off. Sullivan University in Kentucky is generously offering the scholarships you see listed on the screen for the top 3 teams at the state and regional level. To be a part of the competition for this school year, what are the important dates you need to remember and actions you need to take? Today, if you've not done so already, please review the NC Junior Chef Competition guidelines and plan to participate. By December 18th, submit an intent form for your team if interested in participating. By February 1st, turn in an online submission form for your team. We'll share more about the intent and submission forms in a minute. By February 19th, look for a notification by email to see if your team has been selected as a finalist. By March 19th, finalist teams must turn in an updated or final submission form. April 8th or 14th, teams will be scheduled to participate in a live virtual interview with the judges. April 16th, there will be a live virtual ceremony to recognize all of the finalist teams and announce the results of the competition. By April 19th, the competition results will be officially announced by NCDPI through a press release and social media. At this time, we're not certain if there will be a Southeast Junior Chef Competition this year, either in person or virtual. However, we will keep everyone posted. Each team interested in competing should submit an online intent to compete form, which is brief and only asks for teacher and school info as well as the names of the student team members planning to compete. For the recipe contest, each team must submit an online submission form this year. Through the form, you'll provide team contact info, answer related questions about steps taken in preparation for the competition, and upload your application with recipe photo, and permission forms. The online form will allow for everything to be housed in one location given the virtual format. Also new for this year, teams will be required to watch a series of educational videos. The presentation you are watching now about the guidelines, along with brief recorded videos or presentations on school nutrition programs, farm to school, North Carolina agricultural products, and food safety. The videos are intended to enhance the learning opportunity for students provided through the competition. As in previous years, teams will turn in a completed application, which will be uploaded as part of the submission form. Through the application, teams share contact info, approval signatures, their recipe with ingredients and directions, nutrient analysis, and costing. Follow your school and local education agency or LEA procedures for approval to participate in the NC Junior Chef Competition. A signature is required from your school's principal and may be needed from an LEA administrator. It is encouraged that you consult with your school nutrition director and request that he or she signs off on your application to attest that they have reviewed and provided input on your team recipe. You may upload a scanned signature page with the submission form, or you may insert electronic signatures into the application. Teams must develop a lunch entree recipe, yield of 6 servings, that meets USDA requirements and includes at least 2 North Carolina grown ingredients and 1 USDA foods item. A list of example North Carolina grown ingredients is provided in the guidelines. A link to the most current USDA foods list is also provided. Even though many come from and are grown in North Carolina, dishes must not contain nuts or nut products due to allergies. Teams are encouraged to reach out to the local school nutrition program. A school nutrition director, administrator, and/or manager can assist in providing guidance to teams on meeting the nutrition requirements and having their recipes be replicable for school meals. In previous year's competitions, teams were required to conduct taste tests with their peers. Due to COVID-19, this requirement has been set aside this year, but teams should aim to create a dish that they and their peers would like. Dishes should take no longer than 90 minutes to prepare, cook, and plate. Reviewers and judges will check recipes for use of 2 local ingredients and 1 USDA foods item, along with adherence to school nutrition program requirements and NC Junior Chef Competition guidelines. The competition committee reserves the right, upon review, to reject recipes or ask for adjustment. School lunch entrees can be sold as part of a complete reimbursable meal or a la carte. Given this, entree recipes created by students should meet USDA Smart Snacks and School Nutrition standards. Per these criteria, a school lunch entree is defined as the main part of a meal that has a combination of a meat or meat alternate plus a whole grain rich food, or a vegetable plus a meat alternate, or a fruit plus a meat alternate, and a meat alternate alone, except for meat snacks like a beef jerky, yogurt, cheese, seeds, and seed butters. Additional nutrition standards are shown in the table on the screen and included in the competition guidelines. The Application Nutrient Analysis tool, tab number 3 in the Excel workbook, can help you in calculating the calories, fat, saturated fat, and sodium for your recipe. The ingredients, amount used in the recipe, and unit or measure will automatically populate based on your ingredients entered into the application sheet. Please keep in mind that all ingredients, including condiments, contribute to the nutrient analysis. Please make sure that you provide complete and accurate information. Missing, incomplete, or inaccurate info could impact team scoring. For the cost analysis worksheet of the application, tab number 5, please enter the team name, recipe name, number of portions or servings the recipe yields, and the portion size. Enter the ingredients. Enter the purchase unit for the ingredient, purchase cost, the unit cost, which is the cost per unit measure, amount needed, and the ingredient cost will be calculated for you. The total recipe cost will add up at the bottom of the column. The cost per portion or serving will be calculated based on the number of portions or servings entered above. A completed and signed parental permission and release form must be submitted for each student team member. Please make sure that all blanks are completed on the form, especially contact info and the signatures in 2 places, permission to participate and the media release. The recipe review panel will review the submission forms, applications with recipes, and recipe photos from the teams. The scoring rubric addresses whether everything was submitted on time and complete, the quality of the recipe photo, and the quality of the overall recipe. The recipe review panel will score each team's entry and confer to select the 8 finalist teams. Finalist teams will receive feedback from the recipe review panel. Teams can choose to update their applications, recipes, and recipe photos based on that feedback. Each finalist team must update their online submission form for the cook-off phase. They will upload any updated applications with recipes and recipe photos. They will also upload their time management plan and provide a link to an unedited video of the team preparing and plating their recipe. Since we will not be able to be together in person for this year's cook-off, we are conducting the cook-off virtually, as this is an important part of the competition. The video recording of teams preparing and plating their dishes should be done in one take, no editing or starting over, etc., and should show the work surfaces in their entirety and the students at all times. The video can show the team working together when allowable, or show individual team members creating parts of the dish when being together in the same location is not possible due to COVID-19 guidelines. The video must be unedited footage of the recipe preparation. If team members must create parts of the dish in separate locations, the footage may be combined for one video submission. Again, we want to make sure that all team members are safe even while competing in the competition. So please do follow your local health department and school district guidelines to be safe for COVID-19. As with the in-person cook-off, we will schedule teams time to present their recipes to our panel of judges virtually. Teams will have 5 minutes to share about how they created, prepared, and plated their recipes. Judges can ask the teams questions. Afterwards, judges can provide feedback to the teams on items they did well with and things they could improve upon for the future. After reviewing the applications, recipes, recipe photos, time management plans, and videos, judges will score the teams and confer with each other to decide on team medals and placement. Evaluators will use the rubric in the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition Guidelines to score each team regarding recipe development, uniform and appearance, safety and sanitation, food production and presentation. Please note that teams are expected to follow appropriate food safety procedures and safety guidelines for COVID. The NC Junior Chef Committee will provide chef's hats, coats, and aprons for the teams. The committee will do its best to get these to the teams in a timely manner so that the teams may wear these in their videos. Teams will not be penalized if they are not able to receive their NC Junior Chef attire in time, but they must wear appropriate professional attire for the kitchen. Teams will not be scored on how well their videos are edited. The competition is not about video quality, lighting, special effects, editing, and those kinds of things. The videos are only for the purposes of judges being able to observe and evaluate the culinary skills of the teams. Here are some tips for our teams. Plan early to enter the competition. Submit forms and required elements on time, if not early. It never fails that when you wait until the last day and hour, technical difficulties will occur with email, files, scanners, you name it. Read the guidelines and any materials for the competition thoroughly, especially the application. Watch the educational videos. Please encourage and support collaboration between CTE and school nutrition. It is not an easy task to plan meals that meet school nutrition regulations. Creating recipes that meet these requirements are replicable and economical for school nutrition programs is a difficult task. Teams need the expertise of school nutrition professionals to help meet the competition requirements. Teams create a recipe for an entree, but should think about how it fits into a complete reimbursable school meal. We provide a list of North Carolina grown ingredients and a link to the current list of USDA foods, but we always have applications that have mislabeled these items. Please ensure correct labeling. Please check your application before submission to make sure that everything is complete, accurate, and clear. Check in with the appropriate school administrators on the process for obtaining permission to participate in the competition. We do not want any team selected to compete in the cook-off or other related events to be denied the ability to participate. Once selected as a finalist, be sure to have teams practice. It helps them to be prepared and less stressed for the cook-off. Please take care with food safety. There is at least one judge at the cook-off that is focusing on food safety techniques, hand washing, proper glove use, separation of raw meat and poultry from other foods, etc., temperatures. Please address this and be careful with food safety. Help students learn about school meals and farm to school. Judges will ask questions to see how much students know and understand about school nutrition programs and farm to school. All steps in the process of participating in the NC Junior Chef Competition are accomplishments. Please help teams to celebrate these accomplishments. We look forward to entries for this year's competition. If you have questions, please direct them to Tracy Bates or Robert Van Dyke with NCDPI, and you see their emails listed on the screen. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Heather Barnes, a marketing specialist with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, one of the sponsors of the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition. In my role at NCDA, I work with our Farm to School program. What is Farm to School? Farm to School can look different in every school, but it usually has at least one of 4 components to it. The first is procurement. And by procurement, we mean the purchasing, preparing, and serving of local food items in the school nutrition program. School nutrition programs can source local foods from many different places, from wholesalers, from the North Carolina Farm to School program, from USDA Foods, from the Department of Defense program, or from buying direct from a local farmer. There are many opportunities, and probably you've eaten a number of local foods through your school nutrition program. The second part of Farm to School, or the second component, is school gardens. And a school garden might be growing a seed in a milk carton. It may be a windowsill garden. It may be a raised bed outside of your classroom, or it could be as large as a school farm that's a part of your career and technical education program. So school gardens can have many different looks, and the produce or food you grow from them can have many different uses as educational opportunities in the classroom. We do even have some school farms across the state that are GAP, Good Agricultural Practice Certified, and those foods are then served through the school nutrition program. The third component of Farm to School is field trips. Field trips may be to a local farmer's market, a local farm. It may be having a farmer come into your classroom to talk to you. Or in this day and time, it may be a virtual field trip. And there's a number of opportunities for virtual field trips that take you sitting in your classroom or sitting at home in front of your computer right to the very steps of a farm, just like this one. The fourth component of Farm to School is educational opportunities, incorporating agricultural lessons into your curriculum or participating in events just like this one, the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition. There are many resources that talk about Farm to School, both on the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture website, and on NCDA's website. So please be sure to visit our website to learn more about Farm to School. And take time to find out what Farm to School looks like in your community, because in your school it may look very different than another school, and we can't wait to hear what you find out.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the NC Summer Conference for 2021. We are so glad that you're here to join us for our session on North Carolina Junior Chef Competition in the Classroom. My name is Michael Holman, and I'm going to be presenting with Naira Franklin from Swain County. And hopefully our presentation will provide you with just some simple suggestions, some tricks and tips on how to prepare for the Junior Chef Competition. Junior Chef is a partnership with North Carolina FCCLA, and it is one of those beneficial activities that you can do within the classroom. Again, a little bit about myself. I'm Michael Holman. I am a 13-year teacher. I've been a 12-year FCCLA advisor here in North Carolina, and I've been competing with Junior Chef for the last 3 years competition. I am a member of the North Carolina Association for Family, Career, and Technical Education, as well as the North Carolina Family and Consumer Science Association, and a member of the FCCLA Board of Directors. I'm going to introduce you now to Ms. Naira Franklin, who's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Michael. My name's Naira, and I teach at 7 years. Prior to that, I spent 18 years as a 4-H agent with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension, and I have been an advisor for FCCLA for 5 years, and this makes my 2nd year competing in the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition.
Again, I'm so glad to have you presenting with me, Ms. Franklin, because you're going to bring so much to the table in this discussion. So if you do have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to post those questions in the chat box, and Ms. Franklin and myself will respond to those questions as they come along. If there are any pressing comments, if there are any pressing questions that are lingering after this presentation, We will be providing our email addresses at the end of the presentation that you can reach out to us, and we will be sure to respond back to those questions as they come along.
Okay, so our goal and objectives for this presentation is to let you know what Junior Chef is, who can get involved, understanding how each advisor moves along the process, why you and your school should get involved in Junior Chef, and what are the overall benefits of doing Junior Chef. So this is the high school that I teach at. We have around 550 students. It's really small, rural, and it is a really tight community. So one of the things that I'd like to tell you just real quickly is the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition. It was created to inspire the next generation of culinary professionals, stimulate interest in locally produced agriculture, increase participation in school nutrition programs, and encourage healthy eating habits. There's two parts to the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition. There's a recipe contest as well as a cook-off. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how we begin. So I start looking for students interested in the North Carolina Junior Chef Competition. During Foods 1, I teach Foods 1 and Foods 2, and I will start scouting my Foods 1 students. Like, I'll ask them if they're interested in culinary as a career. I also, ask them, are you want to take Foods 2? And I also, while I'm in the lab, I walk around and I check to see if students are able to work as a team. And then, I like the ones that are creative. So I usually ask those students, hey, have you ever thought about competing? And usually they're pretty receptive to it. So it's pretty good. Next slide, please. So once we have established our team, I let the students brainstorm things that they like to eat, things that they like to cook, anything currently served in the cafeteria that could use a makeover. We'll talk about that. And then we'll have students bring in, or team members bring in recipes. Usually I have them bring in recipes that have the nutrition information already on it, just so we'll have a general idea of what's in the recipe. I always have our school dietitian go over it with us to make sure that if there's anything that can be substituted or added, that we've got that. And I also look for, does the recipe have any produce that is grown in North Carolina? Because that's the requirement, that you have at least 2 things in your recipe that is grown in North Carolina, and as well as 1 USDA ingredient. Okay. The other thing I think as an advisor / coach that you need to be thinking about is a timeline. Definitely the first thing you should do is get permission from administration. Ask the superintendent if it's okay, ask CTE director, ask your principal, talk to your school nutritionist, because ultimately they're going to make the decision if you can or can't. Make sure your students are members of North Carolina FCCLA. You need to do that pretty early. So that's why I look for students early too, so we can get them registered. Then look at the competition guidelines, all the forms, the sheets that you have to do, and know the rules. And also make sure that you get the parents' permission, and because there's forms in there that they're going to need to sign. And then ask questions. Tracy Bates will help you with just about anything that she possibly can. She's a good resource to have. Next. Then practice. Students have to come to practice. Our team practices after school, so everyone has to be available. If you think you're going to be playing sports in the winter, then that might not be a good pick unless they can get out of practice, out of the sports practice. Practice safety and sanitation every chance you get. When you're working with the students, practice, just ask them, quiz them, make sure you've gone over everything. My students, they all get their eFood handler certification. So they've had safety and sanitation, and we go over it in class, but just they have to practice that as well. And then if you don't have a commercial kitchen in your school, we have in our school, our lab is home kitchens. So I have to make an appointment I use our local church. They have a commercial kitchen. And so I contact them to make sure that we can come and practice at least 2 to 3 times, just so the students will be comfortable with the equipment, how to turn things on, how to make sure, where to store things like that. And that way, that when they get to Johnson & Wales, it won't be as scary for them. Okay. So a couple of things that you could do in the classroom to help your junior chef team during the competition. And this is totally, I do this, so, you don't have to incorporate these things in, but it kind of helps students learn these different things that they can use in life. Like I have a food photography station. We set up a light box after lab, and they can take pictures of the food that they've made. They can garnish it. I have things available that they can use to garnish with. And I just want them to be creative. We also do a food blog where after every lab that we have, the students will go in, they'll put the recipe in the blog, and they'll put their picture in it. And then they'll also write about the recipe. And I count that towards their lab grade. Then you could do a nutrition newsletter. It doesn't necessarily have to be nutrition. It could be a community newsletter if you wanted to, like what's going on in your classroom. And you could put that in the school. You could send it home to parents. It's just another way to get your program out there. And then, of course, group presentations, because in the junior chef competition, they're going to have to do a group presentation. So this will help them with that. Okay. So my top tips: recruit early. You're going to need 2 to 4 students, depending on how big you want your team. Get permission from administration. Find a recipe early. Brainstorm. Your team needs to brainstorm what they're interested in and what they like to cook. Then schedule an appointment with your school dietitian. And then read the competition guidelines several times over. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin, for sharing your tips and suggestions about how you proceed with your junior chef competition. There's a lot that we can learn from you. Again, my name is Michael Holman. I'm from East Shepherd Hill High School, and we've been doing junior chef for the last 3 years. I can tell you that the last 3 years have been very interesting in the process of doing Junior Chef. The first year, we were actually able to compete live and in person. The second year, we weren't able to actually compete because there was some force of nature that kept us from being able to make it to Johnson and Wales to compete. And then the last year, we had to compete virtually. And so we've kind of had to overcome a lot of circumstances and challenges. But again, it's a great opportunity for our students to make application of what they're learning here in the classroom. So how do we begin? Well, first off, you want to make sure that you have students who are willing to commit their time and energy for this competition. Again, all of our students are busy either after school or before school or during school, obviously. And so, but their commitment in time and energy will be important to the success of your team. Select students who are willing to listen and make adjustments at a moment's notice. Because this competition is ever evolving from the recipe to just even the dish itself, the students have to be willing to be able to be adaptable, to be flexible without getting bent out of shape. Make sure you have a team of adults who are willing to sample the food and give honest feedback. You know, it's important to have adults who are willing to be upfront with the kids and just tell the kids realistically, hey, these are the things I like, these are the things I didn't like, these are the adjustments that I would make. And then last but not least, you as the advisor be willing to make adjustments to your calendar in order to commit to the time, in order to support your students in this competition. When creating your team, I like to use students who are in my advanced classes. Now, of course, you can use one student, but typically your Foods 2 students have gone through Foods 1. They've gone through, in my course at East Chapel Hill, we use the National Restaurant Association Food Handlers course for food safety. So they've gone through that course. And they've gone through the Serve Safe Managers course. So they've had an introduction into food safety, and they've had greater experience working in the kitchen as a team, and they have experience of understanding pace and timing of working in the classroom. Considering that at East Chapel Hill High School, our classes are only 50 minutes long. And so they learn the importance of having a sense of urgency when working in the classroom or working in the competition. You can do tryouts, but again, tryouts are just if you have a large number of students who are interested in working in this team environment. You want to make sure that you make arrangements for all students who are willing to compete. Ideally, you want to make sure that your team is inclusive. So that means if you have students who are EC, you want to make sure that you've made arrangements for them to have modifications or accommodations in order to meet their needs. Last year, I had 2 students who were EC. And so I met with Tracy Bates and Rob Van Dyke at DPI, and we came up with a list of modifications and accommodations that they could use in order for them to compete. And then I was able to meet with our EC coordinator and our occupational therapist in order for them to compete at this level. As for the recipe development, I like to come up with a baseline for our students to use. Typically, I come up with 3 to 4 ideas that they can use. And then I allow the students to cook those baseline ideas, taste them, and then we begin to adjust the recipes in order to create our recipe for competition. Once the students have adjusted their idea of the recipe, then we turn it over to child nutrition, who begins to make adjustments to the recipe. These adjustments include the calories, the fat intake, and the sodium intake in order to meet within the child nutrition guidelines. Again, it's important that you work collaboratively with the child nutrition department aspect, because again, you're going to be adjusting your recipe throughout the whole time that you're practicing for competition. That's why it's important that you exercise patience during this time, and have the ability to be flexible without getting bent out of shape. Don't wait to the last minute to develop your recipe. The first time that I competed in Junior Chef, I waited to the last minute because I wasn't sure if it was something that I wanted to do. But because of all the adjustments that you're going to have to make, you don't want to wait to the last minute. And then last but not least, make sure you take in the suggestions that NCDPI Child Nutrition provides you, especially if you make it into the top 8 of the competition. Again, practice, practice, practice. Start practicing as soon as possible. Practice up until the day of the competition. Your students should know the finalized recipe front and back, upside down. They should be able to go in and cook the recipe without looking at the recipe itself. Again, practice plate presentation for the recipe as well. Make sure that you utilize the FCCLA work plan, which is part of the packet that you receive when you are introduced to Junior Chef, as well as make sure that you use the rubrics that has been provided by Junior Chef as well when competing. That rubrics will allow you to give an honest assessment to your students, so that way they know exactly where they stand when it comes to the competition. Make sure they know how to use the equipment. Schedule a time with Child Nutrition so that they can go into the cafeteria, so that they can practice using the stoves, the ovens, the dishwashers. Because again, I have a consumer kitchen, which means they only know how to use household equipment, household appliances. And so the more time that they have exposure to the commercial equipment, the better off they will be at competition. If you're unable to use the commercial equipment prior to competition, encourage your students to have the confidence to be able to, as I like to call it, to fake and shake. Basically, have confidence knowing that they know how to use the equipment, and that way, they just feel comfortable, even though they're not comfortable. But they give off a confidence that they're comfortable using the equipment. Make sure that the students do surveys, survey their peers, survey their teachers, survey their parents. What I like to do for competition-wise, I will feed the recipe to our students, have them do a quick survey, ask them for their honest feedback. If you want the truth, the students will give you the truth about what they think of the recipe. You want to do this at least 3 to 4 times with parents and students and teachers. And then use this feedback as they do their oral presentation about how they made adjustments to the recipe. Make sure that they know which ingredients are the USDA ingredients and which ingredients are the ingredients from North Carolina. For example, sweet potatoes and tomatoes are all North Carolina products, and so you want to make sure that you include these products into the recipe. Ms. Franklin mentioned in her presentation that she has a set number of ingredients that she likes to use from different parts from North Carolina. I, on the other hand, don't have a specific number. But again, it's up to you as the advisor. It's up to the student as to how many ingredients that they want to use. And then for competition, make sure that you've double-checked your list, double-check your ingredient list, double-check your equipment list and your supplies. Have your students go over the list, make sure that everything is boxed properly, that you have everything that you need. You go behind the students, and if you're working collaboratively with your child nutritionist or a dietitian, have them go behind you and double-check, make sure that you have everything that you need. Again, rehearse the oral presentation prior to competition, have them practice in front of a mirror. So that way they know the presentation frontwards, backwards, sideways, upside down as well. Make sure that your students meet the uniform requirements, the pants, the non-skid shoes, the aprons, the jackets, the chef hat. Last year, because we were COVID, we competed over video. And so one of the things that I didn't ensure before we started practicing was to make sure that the students were in full uniform. And at the end of the competition, I noticed that one of my students competed barefoot. So you want to make sure that they still meet uniform requirements, even if we're in COVID lockdown again, like we were. And then last but not least, just make sure the students have fun. As I mentioned before, in my with the one student who competed barefooted, by the end of the video, they had done all this work. So I had just decided, we'll just go with what we have. And at the end of the day, as long as they had fun competing, had fun recording, that's really all that mattered. So again, have fun in the process of doing this learning process. All of this activity can be done during the classroom setting. Especially if you're in the block setting, you can reserve time. Have those students who are in your competition group, if they're all in one class, practice for competition during their block that they're in your class for. Again, my name is Michael Holman. This is my contact information. Chef 271@gmail.com. Again, you can reach Ms. Franklin at nyrafranklin@gmail.com. It has been a pleasure presenting this information to you. And like I said, if you have additional questions, please feel free to contact us at our respective email addresses. Again, we will make this presentation available to Rob and Valerie at NCDPI. And if you are unable to get a hold of them, please feel free to reach out to us at our email addresses so we can make this presentation available to you again. Again, we're going to turn this back over to Ms. Franklin if she has any closing thoughts.
Thank you, Michael. I think the most important thing, and you said it really well, is just have fun with this competition. It's a really great opportunity for students, and it's a lot of fun, and they get to travel to Johnson and Wales. So just have fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you next year in 2022 at Summer Conference. Hopefully we'll be live and in person, and we can network together that way. But until then, have a great summer, have a great school year, and we look forward to hearing great things from you.